very brief because I know we want to get through the presentation of the app for police department. As Dr. Gray mentioned, I was with the CIA for 24 years and in private practice psychologist, full professor at the university. And I find the app useful because of the 5 pillars. So often people concentrate on one pillar or the other, so to speak, if they are not feeling well. Do I have a headache, but they haven't looked at nutrition? Am I anxious? And maybe they want medication, but they haven't looked at lifestyle changes. I won't give too many examples because I said I want to be brief. As Lynette said, the app helps people stay accountable. If I have a conversation with someone in my office and it goes well, if nothing happens differently for that person when they leave the office, we just had a nice conversation. Now that could be pleasant enough for both of us, but it's really not psychotherapy. They need to think about and or engage in different behaviors and actually have different thoughts. This app helps them stay on track with that, as well as making the lifestyle changes that make it easier to have different thoughts and change behaviors. So I'm sold. I think it's an absolutely fabulous first-rate tool for health, well-being.
How is AI powering this tool?
First of all, AI is a very global concept. In reality, there are very many levels of what we can consider artificial intelligence. It starts from gathering information and looking at patterns. That's what I call a static type of approach to it, where you set a goal and you observe the behavior, and then the software makes actions with regard to what provides the best possible outcome on average based on the information. The second one is where you allow the AI to use this information and make decisions. Because so far we have been basically reading data and we prioritize it. So the AI is what I call static, because it's got a fixed set of rules that it follows. The second level is where the AI makes decisions. And of course, we don't want the AI to make decisions directly on the people. What the AI will do is send information to the company, to us, to say, I noticed that if I'm looking at, I see cohorts and patterns and all kinds of information elements that arise. And when I connect them, I see this connecting with this and this connecting with this and this connecting with that. So this will allow us to re-inject this heuristic information back into the application to retrain the model and provide better benefit for the customers. Almost at a personal level, in the beginning, see, the other part of AI is that the more data you have and the more intelligent it gets. So as you grow, you will be able to respond to many more parameters and discover many more behaviors, patterns, cohorts, and so on and so forth that can be pushed back into the application for the best benefit of use. So it's I'm trying to not to be technical here, but it's a pretty complex subject altogether. In this case, of course, on a website, we cannot connect to a device. But let's say you have your Fitbit and it would have recorded your O2 saturation level. If you are a patient that keeps track once a glucose level, then we can say, well, I was 100, which is within normal range. And your Fitbit or Apple Watch will also have your heart rate. And it'll say, let's say if we have 94, it'll say it's a little high. So that's a good indication, for instance, that something may not be proper, that your heart rate on average is too high. Otherwise, if it's in the regular range, it'll say normal range, and so on and so forth.
And so, where a lot of this comes into play is besides self-awareness and self-management and accountability, the patient-physician companion, whereas you'll see if you saw all of it in red, all of this poorly, plus the tasks and the action items are not being completed, this may show up on the end of the day, alert to the physician so that there's not such a 6 month to a year space between interaction, right? There are plenty of situations where patients go way too long without seeing their physician because the physician is not aware of the day-to-day action items, happenings, and just the general falling shorts in health. So this now gives that opportunity to then say, okay, and if the day a report comes through to that practice, that concierge practice, they see this physician, this patient is not only failing in doing their things, but is also equaling poor heart rate, insulin levels, all of these things are falling short. I need to give get this patient in and prioritize their visit so that it's not just the next 6 months, follow-up type thing. So yeah, I think there's a lot of this that needs to be had in the medical world, and there's no real device like that. One of the many ways that we are kind of filling that gap.
And by the way, these are not the only 3 elements you can have. We support everything that every device will write to the phone. So such as cholesterol and number of steps and calories and hours of sleep, temperature, blood pressure, and so on, so weight, you name it.
So you have built the interfaces with the Apple and I guess and others?
Yeah. The way it works is, you see, I am a big fan of Fitbit, and I use both Vell and Fitbit for different reasons, because Vell is a fully integrated program and Fitbit gives me very specific information on sleep and fitness. But when we integrate the data from Fitbit or the Apple Watch into Vell, now we have a bird's eye view of the entire clinical plus holistic lifestyle combination of factors. And we can run a very good analysis there.
That's impressive.
This is ailment-centric, patient-centric, precision-based, and every other thing out there is very singular in purpose. I need Calm for meditation. I need Aura for sleep. I need Fitbit for steps. This has all of it, but gives you the way to use all this information now as a hub. So it's not competing with those things. It's bringing all that information in, the first hub, wellness hub, and allowing you to select, but this is your flower for today. And this is obviously imbalanced. So we want to be in balance, and that's a flower that is not balanced. So now we look at supplements. Obviously, we didn't do too well there. So we're going to have to look at that and try to do better tomorrow. Care services need some improvement and so forth and so on. Now, history, again, now we see your symptom line, which is the white one, against your overall efforts. So how much have you invested in yourself health-wise, and what is your return symptom-wise, right? So this is where, again, it's not available out there. This is one of our intellectual properties. This programming is great, and it's very special because now for the first time you can click, as you can see, each area and see what's important to you. Because John might respond best with arthritic complaints when his stress levels are down and he maintains his meditation and so forth and so on. While as Mary, her nutrition may be the key element. When she varies from the nutrition path, she might notice her symptom line goes up, so forth and so on. And now you might notice some people respond better to a more fitness-based approach, where their exercise, daily exercise, is key and keeps their inflammation down and arthritic symptoms down. So this zeroes in on that. It shows you a 30, 60, 90 day, a year, whatever amount of data is going to be input over time. I think for this user, we have, 90 days. As far as 90 days, Mike?
Yeah, we can go 90 days.
So you can see what 90 days looks like, right? And then you can also go to the date. So how many times are you saying, when I was doing poorly, this is what I was doing, but however, I want to remember when I was doing great. What does that look like? What were my efforts? Where did I excel? And this will allow you to do that. And this will allow you to do that with your physician, because a lot of times there's no accountability to you complying with what you were set, charged to do within the 6 months between your follow-up. And now you have this data to say, okay, this is when I was doing great. I really responded to these recommendations, and these are your health trends. There's a couple of things that might be of interest to you in addition. Gamification, boards, the user with frequency, and encouraging longevity of checking in as well as frequency, right? So there's badges to be had and so forth and so on. There's a couple ways of looking at utilizing this besides the fact that there's a reward system within itself for being well. In a corporate setting, there are different ways that adherence and participation in health apps are rewarded. There's some where we've met with a company named Reciprocity. Through relationships with companies, will monetize the attention to the health apps, and part of money given to them will then be deposited into an account, which then the employee has access to through an ATM card. So that's real money-based incentivization. Then you've got partnerships that we can create, and that is the sky is the limit. We've started talks with various herbal or companies like Garden of Life. We ran a campaign with them where the users 23 and 23, so 23 days in 2023. And once you complete that 23 days of checking in and you provide it to us, the app records it, you can get a $250 gift bag or gift basket from Garden of Life. So obviously there's a lot more that can be done over time as we accumulate partnerships and such.
I came aboard because of my interest in helping folks do more than just be treated pharmacologically, right? We need folks willing to think that there's something that they can do that can benefit themselves rather than just something I can do for them or Dr. Gray can do for them or Dr. Smith can do for them, but what can they do? And frequently they don't know what they can do because they're not good record keepers of themselves. Accustomed, right, to knowing what they've eaten, knowing how active they are, knowing what their symptoms are. They just don't know. And so this app helps them. It identifies for them 5 pillars of health, some examples of ways to attend to each of those pillars, and introduces the interconnectedness, if you will, of those pillars. How mental health is related to physical well-being, how physical health is related to nutritional, how nutritional, et cetera, et cetera.
Exercise, the whole body, the holistic view.
The whole body, right?
Totally into it. And so our company is dedicated to that.
The whole company is dedicated to, as you said, getting to the folks that are underserved in some ways just because they're uninformed. And interestingly, that's not 10%, that's the 90% of the world
absolutely.
That needs
That
treatment.
vast majority of people.
Absolutely.
I mean, unless you're a hypochondriac with money or you've got a concierge service, I mean, who has the doctors don't have the time right now to talk to. So that's I did see your app. I love it. That's one of the reasons why I reached out to Ken.
And we're happy you did, because unfortunately, even the really good concierge docs are still allopathic, medical, physical malady.
They're old school.
Right. This is a matter of biochemistry. Let's alter the chemistry. We'll alter the being. Rather than let's let the being alter him or herself and watch their chemistry change.
The conversation that you would have with a physician, and this one obviously is based on arthritis.
And we allow customized entries, so people can actually track very specific things for themselves.
And so we go through that, and then of course this is very important because the app and Vell is taking this information and real time, as you see, gives out the 5-pillar approach based upon the symptoms of that day. So that's great, it's smart, and it's drawing from about 30 plus different options within that program for that ailment. And then the first 3, however, are 3 custom steps that were added. So what we've done is we not only have this sort of set, variation of things that come from the symptoms, but we have the ability, or the user has the ability, to customize in addition their care. So for instance, you have a person that is really more looking at their arthritis symptoms in conjunction with a underlying type 2 diabetes background. So there's weight issues, there's specific pain areas, there's the need to drink more water, there's the need to calculate how your insulin plays into all this. So now you get customization, which adds to the feedback and the tracking, everything, and will eventually be recorded as part of the health trends. So that customization is wonderful because even though we're not technically a medical app or holistic app, we're allowing the user, again, to meld all the worlds, their medication, their actions, their mental, emotional, and all of that, and then it will be taken into account with their feedback and trends over time. So
what we do very well is also allowing people to set reminders for just about any task they want. And they can be once a day, multiple times a day. For instance, for people that need to remember to take a medicine at very specific intervals, they can set that up. And they can even set it up in a schedule with a calendar so that their doctor always has visibility into
items here. What I'd like to do is click on the Learn button, because the Learn button is going to show you all of the arthritic recommendations. So arthritis, first of all, if you click on that, it will show you the holistic approach to arthritis. So it gives you an overview holistically or alternatively, or whatever you want to call it. I like calling it integrative or holistic.
Okay.
And so this gives you insight as to why you're going to do the following things. And then
Where's the source from, Doctor? Is it you or from certain journals or?
Well, a combination. So there's a lot of common source information that we've curated. There's obviously me, and then we have a wonderful health advisory board. So Dr. Bourne has gone through most of the mental or mind-related things. We have not only pediatric orthopedic surgeons on our advisory board, health advisory board, but we have Forts, the guy for the Rams and Marlins and so forth, is with us. The executive medical director for NextEra, which is #1 per capita energy company in the world, is on our health advisory board. So he is the GP, the executive director for health for NextEra, which is over 15,000 employees. So he's one of our advisors. We have from Mount Sinai Hospital in New York, a holistic gynecologist, Shanaz Rustamova, who's on our health advisory board. We have other psychologists and other specialists, and continuing to grow that. We have an ophthalmologist that specializes in diabetes type 2. So when we speak to that. So it's a combination of common sourced information that's readily available, especially the Western type stuff. And then of course the alternative or Eastern medicine, which is curated from me and supported by our health advisory board, such as Dr. Bourne, clinical psychologist, and so forth.
So I think that right now, the National Cancer Institute just put firefighting, the profession of firefighting, as an actual carcinogen. So we're exposed to a lot of stuff: metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular disease, all these things, and then we put the mental health on top of it, right? So now we have PTSD, we have repetitive traumas and things like that. So our thing is, and the goal is to get somebody on, keep them on the job for 30 years, and then they can go on and spend 30 years in their retirement after their public service. So it started for us years ago when I was an EMS chief, and I was asked to look at the workers' compensation data at that time, and I looked at it and noticed that we had a lot of soft tissue sprains and strains type things, and that's typical across the fire service, right? 40% of our reported injuries, whether or not on emergency call or non-emergency call, are sprains and strains. But looking at that point as to what it was that we had that was disability was all low back. What I really like is the 5 parts equal up the total, right? I think those pillars really kind of hit on total wellness. You know, I think there's a lot of apps are very custom, right? You either have nutrition, you have exercise, or you have mental health, but you don't really have it all joined together. So I think the fact that those pillars are there and you're looking at each one of those being a sum of the total of where your health is at that point is a really good concept.
Thank you.
List of diseases specific to that individual, and how many of those are going to be there? How extensive does that get, that list?
Well, that list, like I said, right now we have about 28 major complaints.
Okay.
Right.
Most common.
You see those? So we'll start at A. We'll start at the top. Yeah, most common: so arthritis, acne, alopecia, anxiety, back pain, depression, erectile dysfunction, female fertility, fibromyalgia, heart disease, headache management, hypertension, like you just asked, IBS, insomnia, big one, Lyme disease, menopause, migraines. So menopause is like hot, with hot flashes as well as a main focus. Obesity, PMS, reflux, GERD, which is huge, shingles, type 2 diabetes. Now, as things come up, we have trends that we're working on, looking at, and then releasing. Now, go back to the optimize, Mike. Here's an interesting option as well. So say right now, one of those complaints are not what you're looking for. You have an optimize my wellness, which is based on balancing out. So what you go through is a series of questions. Those questions will ask you things that, look at metabolics, look at, your appetite, frequency of urination, what your temperature is, all these sort of things, which then put it through a sort of an Eastern Ayurvedic pathway through the AI, and then give you a program to follow based upon that. So it's not specific to an ailment, it's specific to your imbalances and how we balance you. So even there, we have an opportunity for that. And that what you just saw was a look at that. So we're conscious of the fact that we might be dealing with different cultural and socially adept individuals. And we don't want this to be a turnoff. We do want them to start somewhere, and the somewhere is different for everyone. So that's the way it's created.
What we also want, Chief, is what you said. We want it to be as integrated and as complete, realizing that nothing is ever fully complete, and something that they self-manage. because self-discipline contributes to self-motivation, which is clearly what they need in their work. But also we think if we can help them value what it feels like to accomplish their own health. As a psychologist, I think there's hardly anything that feels better than self-discipline. You just feel good, your mood's improved, your diet's improved, your relationships with others are improved. You're improved. And so this app is also designed to sort of help people acquire a bit more self-discipline by helping them stay motivated to complete today's or this week's task, and then having a historical record for them to look back and say, not only did I do it, look at how when I gave my reports of how I felt better when I did it. Because sometimes it's hard to say to someone, it's hard to get an accurate answer. For me, if you ask me, Russell, how'd you feel in the middle of October? Well, God, I just don't know how I felt in the middle of October. I can't tell you. And so when my physician says, let's look back at what was happening last summer. Were you doing things differently in the summer than you are now? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't really remember. But then if my wife is there, she says, well, as a matter of fact, you were sleeping more, or as a matter of fact, you really were biking more regularly, or whatever it is, where if I have this app, I can say, well, let me look and see. You know what? I was eating better. I was exercising more. I did the things that the app was suggesting, and son of a gun if I didn't feel better. Right.
So it makes that correlation of what you've done and how you're feeling at the time, which I don't know that any other app really has that. That's very unique in that aspect where you could look back, see where you were, see how you felt, get all that information in. So that's something I haven't seen before.
And get it across all 5 pillars, as you were saying.
There's definitely something there. Like I said, I do a lot of research. I look at a lot of stuff. I have not seen something that is this kind of complete.